Welcome the anointed ones. When a prophet lingers while they're here, and now, God is bigger than they think. Think in. The world has a bad habit of ignoring the ones God sends until it's too late. History is littered with examples. Noah preached for 120 years before the flood came, and people laughed in his face. Jesus walked among men, healing the sick and raising the dead, and they still nailed him to a cross. People never appreciate divine messengers while they're here. And now, God has decided. The mission is over. You're leaving. Some will rejoice, thinking they finally got rid of you. Others will panic, realizing too late that your presence was the only thing keeping judgment at bay. Either way, their reaction doesn't matter, because the decision has already been made. But before you go, let's talk about what your departure really means. Spoiler alert. It's bigger than they think. Number one, you were never sent for their validations, and to force them to confront truths they'd rather. The irony. Even those who laughed at you concern, your presence was the message, and they did. Chosen by God doesn't mean being understood. It means being noticed. And being noticed doesn't always feel good. You weren't sent to fit in. You weren't sent to be liked. You were sent to shake the ground beneath people's feet, to challenge their illusions, and to force them to confront truths they'd rather avoid. That's why so many rejected you. It wasn't because they didn't see something different in you. They did. But that difference was inconvenient. It disrupted their comfort. And people will always choose comfort over truth if given the chance. Some dismissed you as extreme, too serious, or even misguided. Others mocked you outright, twisting your words and making you the punchline of their conversations. But here's the irony. Even those who laughed at you listened. Even those who rolled their eyes paid attention. They couldn't ignore you, no matter how much they wanted to. You disrupted their routine, their beliefs, their carefully built illusions. And even though they rejected you, they remember you. That memory will haunt them in your absence. God didn't send you for their applause. He sent you as a witness. Whether they accepted or rejected what you carried was never your concern. Your presence was the message. And now that message is sealed. The mission is over. The decision has been made. Some will realize too late who you were and what you represented. Some will wish they had listened when they had the chance. But hindsight is a cruel teacher, and regret doesn't rewrite history. What's done is done. Now they must live with the weight of what they ignored. And you leave knowing this was never about them liking you. It was about them noticing you. And they did. Number two, your departure will be more impactful to change. But most people don't recognize or mistake your departure for their victory. But they words you once spoke, when they wish they could ask you, darkness swallows everything. The sound of a voice is ignored until silence makes the absence unbearable. And right now, many don't realize that your presence has been holding back consequences they can't even see. You weren't just another person in their lives. You were an interruption, a divine warning, a chance to change. But most people don't recognize divine intervention when it's standing right in front of them. They mistake patience for weakness, delay for irrelevance, and grace for permission. They assume they have more time, more chances, more room to ignore the truth. Now, the time is up. Your mission is over. And what happens next is out of your hands. Some will celebrate, convinced they've silenced you, that they've rid themselves of an inconvenient voice. They'll mistake your departure for their victory. But they won't be laughing for long, because what they fail to see is that your presence was a covering. Whether they liked you or not, you were standing between them and the full weight of what's coming. They don't realize that the moment you leave, things start shifting. The space you occupied will not remain empty. It will be filled with the consequences of everything they ignored. Regret will be their teacher now. When they start searching for the words you once spoke, when they wish they could ask you just one more question, when they feel the weight of what they lost, then they'll understand. But by then, it won't be about you anymore. Your impact won't be measured by how people treated you while you were here, but by how they respond to your absence. Some will wake up, some will break, but no one will be able to say they weren't warned. Number three, the final act of obedience He doesn't ask if you're emotionally ready. He doesn't lay what he's about to do next. Some will beg you to. Your absence will leave a gap they cannot ignore. Thought that maybe, just maybe, if you stayed a little longer, if you said one more thing, if you tried just a little harder, something would change. But that's the illusion of control. The mission was never about your efforts. It was about your obedience. God doesn't consult feelings when he moves. He doesn't ask if you're emotionally ready. He doesn't wait for closure. When he says it's time, it's time. And that's where the real test comes. Not in the work itself, but in surrendering it when he says it's done. You don't get to decide when you've done enough. That decision belongs to God alone. He sees the full picture, the parts you can't see, the outcomes you'll never witness. And if he says your time in this place is over, then staying longer wouldn't change anything. In fact, it would only delay what he's about to do next. Some will beg you to stay. They'll say they need more time, that they're just starting to understand. But urgency isn't the same as change. People panic when they feel something slipping away, but panic isn't transformation. And God isn't moved by last-minute desperation. He's moved by real surrender. Others will act like your leaving doesn't matter, that you were never that important anyway. But they'll feel it soon enough. Whether they loved you or resented you, your absence will leave a gap they cannot ignore. Your only responsibility was to deliver the message, to live the example, to be what God called you to be. And you did. Now it's out of your hands. Letting go isn't failure. It's trust. It's the final act of faith. The moment where you prove once and for all that it was never about you in the first place. Number 4. You were the answer to their preferred. Maybe you were too familiar, Now, that rejection is final. Go back at them, a reminder of what they once had, but expect something grand, something obvious, something that fits their idea of divine intervention. They want God to move, but only in ways that make sense to them. That's why, when he sent you, they dismissed you. You didn't fit their expectations. You weren't what they imagined. You didn't come in the form they preferred. Maybe you were too familiar, too ordinary in their eyes. Maybe your message was too raw, too challenging. They wanted an answer that comforted them, not one that confronted them. And so they rejected what they had been begging for, never realizing their own blindness. Some even resented you. They saw your presence as an intrusion rather than an answer. They wanted help on their terms. And when God sent you, they turned away because you didn't fit their script. Now, that rejection is final. The door they slammed shut will not open again. The opportunity they dismissed has passed. And here's the reality. God doesn't force answers on people. He doesn't beg them to listen. He gives them a chance, and if they refuse, he moves on. But the silence that follows will be deafening. The same people who dismissed you will cry out again, but this time there will be no response. Their unanswered prayers will not bring another messenger. They will only echo back at them, a reminder of what they once had but refused to accept. Regret is a bitter thing. It turns past opportunities into torment, and some of them will live with the knowledge that the help they once rejected was standing right in front of them, but now you are gone, and there will be no second chance. Number 5, some will celebrate your exit, but now that you're gone, they will have they built. They'll realize they weren't as strong. They will remember your words. They will your presence. They laugh, they mock, they feel triumphant. But their celebration is premature because the absence of light doesn't create darkness. It only exposes it. While you were here, they had something to push against. They had a distraction, someone to resist, someone to argue with. But now that you're gone, they will have to face themselves. And that's the last thing they wanted. People fear accountability. They don't want to admit they were wrong, that they ignored something valuable, that they fought against the very thing sent to save them. It's easier to frame your exit as a victory rather than a warning. But time will prove the truth. The moment they no longer have you to oppose, they will start to see the cracks in everything they built. They'll realize they weren't as strong as they thought, that your presence wasn't the problem. It was their own unwillingness to face reality. And now, with you gone, there is nothing standing between them and the consequences of their choices. Some of them will pretend not to care, They'll act like nothing changed. But the weight of your absence will settle in slowly, like a cold creeping into a once warm room. They will remember your words. They will remember the moments when they could have listened but didn't. And eventually, that realization will be unbearable. What they mistook for a victory will become their greatest regret. Because the truth is, they never defeated you. They only lost their chance to change. And that loss is far greater than they ever imagined. Number 6, you were a mirror, not a savior of the truth. To hold up the mirror and let them see, for they could avoid the truth. Others dismissed you for their transformation. You were only responsible for what stands before them. Every flaw, every failure, every falsehood. And most people can't handle that kind of honesty. You weren't sent to save them. That was never your job. You weren't here to fix their brokenness, to force them into change, to carry them to salvation. You were only here to reveal the truth, to hold up the mirror and let them see for themselves. What they did with that truth was always their choice. But many hated what they saw. They resented the way your presence exposed the cracks in their carefully constructed illusions. You didn't even have to say much. Just by being who you were, you made them uncomfortable. And rather than face what was being revealed, they turned their anger toward you. Some tried to break the mirror, hoping that if they silenced you, they could avoid the truth. Others dismissed you, called you crazy, called you irrelevant, tried to make you feel small, but none of it changed the reality of what you showed them. And now, with you gone, they will no longer have a distraction. They will have to live with themselves, with the unfiltered truth that remains long after you have left. Some will try to forget, but truth is relentless. It lingers. It resurfaces at unexpected moments. You were never responsible for their transformation. You were only responsible for delivering the truth. And you did. Whether they embraced it or ran from it is on them. And now they will have to face the reflection they once tried to ignore, alone. Number 7. Your presence disturbed their is avoiding. And that kind of disruption is never easier. Familiarity is safer. What they resisted was never really you. It was those things are built on lies. And then you arrived. You weren't part of their plan. You disrupted their carefully balanced world. And they hated you for it. You forced them to think. You challenged what they had always accepted. You asked the questions they had spent years avoiding, and that kind of disruption is never welcome, because change is painful. Growth requires breaking things apart. And most people would rather stay comfortable in dysfunction than be uncomfortable in transformation. They resisted you, not because they didn't see the truth, but because they did. And that truth required something from them. It required them to let go of illusions, to admit they were wrong, to step into the unknown. But complacency is easier. Familiarity is safer. And so they fought against you, not realizing they were fighting against their own chance at something greater. Some will say they never needed you, that your leaving doesn't change anything. But deep down, they know the truth. They felt the shift when you came, and they feel the void now that you're gone. They may not admit it, but something inside them is unsettled. Because the questions you raised don't just disappear. The truth you carried doesn't fade. What they resisted was never really you, it was the call to wake up. And now, they are left in the same place you found them, unchanged, unmoved, trapped in the comfort that will soon feel like a prison. And you? You leave knowing that their resistance wasn't failure. It was proof that you did exactly what you were meant to do. You disturbed their complacency. And even if they never change, they will never be the same. Number 8. Those who recognized you will look for what could have been. They will replay conversations they have silenced you, erased you, moved on with, will creep in. Some will try to deny you. The ones who recognized you, even if they didn't always understand everything, will feel the weight of this moment. They will know something irreversible has happened. Your absence won't just be noticed, it will be felt. The world will not be the same without you in it. They will grieve not just for you, but for what could have been. They will replay conversations, remember your words, and realize how significant your presence was. Some will wish they had spent more time with you, learning, listening, understanding. They will feel the loss deeply, knowing they had something rare in their midst. But the ones who mocked you, they won't mourn, at least not at first. They will scoff, celebrate, convince themselves that nothing has changed. They'll pat themselves on the back, believing they have silenced you, erased you, moved on without consequence. But they are wrong. Because when God removes his chosen ones, the spiritual atmosphere shifts. The ground beneath them will start to shake, not physically, but in ways they cannot ignore. What once felt stable will become uncertain. What once seemed secure will begin to crack. They will feel the weight of something they can't explain, an invisible yet undeniable shift. And for the first time, fear will creep in. Some will try to deny it, but deep down, they will know. They will remember the warnings, the truth you carried, the authority in your voice. They will realize that you were never just a person. They will recognize too late that you were a sign. By then their arrogance will crumble, and trembling they will finally understand what they refused to see. Number 9. You were here to plant seeds. Behind, some people ignored you, yes. Others will face situations that suddenly make everything. The truth you carried was never about you. It was about us. Some things take time. Some hearts need seasons to soften. Some revelations only make sense in hindsight, and that's why your mission was never to see the results. It was only to plant the seeds. Every conversation you had, every truth you spoke, every moment of your presence left something behind. Some people ignored you, yes. Some dismissed you. But there were others, the quiet ones, the uncertain ones, the ones who listened without speaking. They may not have responded in the moment, but something in them shifted. They weren't blind. They weren't deaf. They just needed time. Now that you're gone, those seeds will begin to sprout. Some will find themselves remembering your words in the middle of the night, unable to shake the truth they once resisted. Others will face situations that suddenly make everything you said crystal clear. The things they once ignored will come back to them in ways they never expected. And that was always the plan. You were never meant to stay and watch the harvest. Your role was to sow the truth, to disrupt the ground, to introduce a reality they weren't ready for, but would one day need. You may never know who changes, who wakes up, who finally understands. But that was never the point. The truth you carried was never about you. It was about what it would do long after you were gone. And trust this, when the time is right, those seeds will grow. Number 10. They weren't ready for the truth. It stands firm, whether people accept it or not. Some people only learn through loss, and whatever happens next. That is between them. Ready. Maybe they never would be, but that was never your burden to carry. People assume readiness is something automatic, that truth should be spoon-fed in ways they find palatable. But real truth doesn't adjust itself to make people comfortable. It doesn't soften itself for convenience. It stands firm, whether people accept it or not. Some people thought they had more time. They assumed they could ignore you now and figure it out later. But time is not promised. And now they will learn this the hard way. With your departure, they lose the option to keep dismissing you. They will no longer have the luxury of treating your words as background noise. Now consequences will be their teacher. Reality will force them to face what they once avoided. And the hard truth? Some people only learn through loss. They won't realize what you were to them until they experience the full weight of your absence. They will wish they had listened when they had the chance, but that regret will be theirs to bear, not yours. You were never responsible for making them ready. That was between them and God. Your role was simply to deliver the message, to live the truth, to stand as a witness. And you did that. Now their refusal becomes their responsibility. And whatever happens next, that is between them and the consequences they tried so hard to avoid. Number 11. Your absence will force them to... They trusted you to hear for them, to pray for them. Now that you're gone, they must seek him directly. It will force them to stand on their own, never realizing they were supposed to seek God for themselves. They relied on your connection to God instead of developing their own. It wasn't always obvious. Some thought they were seeking God, but in reality, they were depending on you to interpret his voice for them. They trusted you to hear for them, to pray for them, to stand in the gap. And now that gap is empty. Some will panic. They will feel lost, unprepared, uncertain of how to move forward without you. They will search for replacements, someone else to give them the easy answers. But they won't find you again. And that's the point. God never intended for them to depend on you forever. You were a guide, a signpost, but never the destination. Now that you're gone, they must seek him directly. Some will resist at first. It will be uncomfortable. They will struggle with the silence, with the uncertainty. But for those who are truly hungry for truth, this will be their turning point. They will learn to pray in ways they never did before. They will seek God, not out of habit, but out of desperation. And in that desperation, they will finally find him. Your absence will do what your presence never could. It will force them to stand on their own. And in the end, that was always the goal. Number 12. You were a divine interruption when you arrived. They felt the weight of your presence and underbrought. And now, time has run out. They embraced it. Then your leaving is simply part of their kind words, but have no intention of heeding them. But they never took the message seriously. But it won't be the same. Because a prophet, they shake things up, expose hidden truths, and force decisions. Some recognized what you were. They saw the way things changed when you arrived. They felt the weight of your presence and understood that it wasn't ordinary. For them, your departure will be felt deeply, but they will move forward knowing that they had a brief moment of something rare. But most, they ignored it. They treated you as just another person passing through, dismissing the significance of what was happening right in front of them. They assumed they had time. They thought they could take their time processing, debating, or flat out rejecting what you brought. And now, time has run out. Your role wasn't to stay and convince them. Your role wasn't to make sure they understood. It was to interrupt, to be that sudden wake-up call, that unmistakable shift in their lives. What they did with that moment was always their choice. Some chose wisely, others squandered it. Either way, your mission is over. If they rejected the intervention, they will now deal with the consequences of that choice. And if they embraced it, then your leaving is simply part of their journey forward. You were never meant to stay forever. You weren't a safety net or a security blanket. You were a moment of divine mercy, a chance, an opening, a disruption. And now, that moment has passed. Number 13. Not everyone deserves access to a prophet. Prophets are not entertainers. They are not here for amusement, for curiosity, or for the indulgence of those who want to hear divine words but have no intention of heeding them. They are walking warnings, living messages, the embodiment of God's voice on earth. And not everyone deserves access to that. Many treated you like a spectacle. They were fascinated by your presence, intrigued by your words, entertained by the way you spoke truth so boldly. But fascination isn't the same as reverence. They watched, but they never truly listened. They enjoyed the idea of a prophet in their midst, but they never took the message seriously. And now, they will realize their mistake. When God removes his chosen ones, he removes access to his voice in a way that is devastating. Those who took you for granted will find themselves grasping at echoes, desperate to hear what they once ignored. They will remember your words, but it will be too late to ask for more. Some will try to find replacements. They will seek out others who sound like you, who remind them of you, but it won't be the same. Because a prophet isn't just a person, it's an assignment. And when that assignment is over, there is no substitute. This is the cost of rejection. Access to truth is a privilege, not a guarantee. And those who wasted their chance to receive from you will now experience the silence that follows. Not everyone deserves access to a prophet, and those who mishandled you will soon understand why. Number 14. Heaven decided, not you. You were never the author of this mission. You were the vessel, a conclusion that makes perfect sense in realms beyond the. There is no need to look back, no need to wonder what words like fire in their bones. The ones who weigh with certainty walk away knowing that this journey isn't over. There's more to uncover. Felt satisfied with the outcome. It was about obedience, doing what God asked, when he asked, how he asked, and you did that. You were never the author of this mission. You were the vessel, the messenger, the instrument, and the one who sent you has now declared the mission complete. That alone is enough. It's human to feel unfinished, to wonder what happens next, to wish you had more time. But God doesn't operate on human emotions. He moves by divine timing, by plans that stretch beyond what you can see. If he says you're done, then you are done. No loose ends, no unfinished business. Just a divine conclusion that makes perfect sense in realms beyond this one. And that should bring you peace. Because if heaven says it's finished, then it's finished well. The final departure. A moment sealed in heaven. This was never just about you. It was never about your personal victories or your desire to see the full impact of your presence. It was always about obedience, about fulfilling a divine mission, about being exactly where God placed you for the time he appointed. And now that time is over. There is no need to look back, no need to wonder what if or why now. Heaven's decisions are precise, deliberate, and absolute. You were sent as an interruption, a messenger, a sign. You did what you were called to do, and now your absence will speak just as loudly as your presence once did. Some will mourn, some will tremble, some will awaken, others will harden even further. But that is no longer your concern. The ones who saw you for who you were will carry your words like fire in their bones. The ones who mocked you will feel the weight of what they dismissed, and those who relied on you instead of God will finally be forced to seek him for themselves. This is the moment where you let go. You are not leaving in defeat. You are leaving in completion. You have not been dismissed. You have been withdrawn. This is not the end of your story. It is simply the closing of a chapter that heaven has signed off on. And that is enough. Walk away with peace. Walk away with certainty. Walk away knowing that everything you were sent to do has been accomplished. Heaven has decided, and that is all that matters. If this message resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Make sure to like, comment, and share so that others can receive it too. I want to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below and let's talk about it. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. This journey isn't over. There's more to uncover, more to reveal, and more truth to be spoken. Stay connected, stay engaged, and let's keep walking in purpose together. Subscribe now and I'll see you in the next one. Welcome the anointed ones. When God sends someone chosen your way, they don't come to blend in. They come to change everything. Life has a funny way of sneaking surprises into your routine, often wrapped in people you least expect. Here's a fact. 90% of the most pivotal connections in your life aren't planned. They're divine interruptions, orchestrated by God to challenge, uplift, and sometimes downright confuse you. These people won't always arrive with a glowing halo or a heavenly soundtrack. Sometimes they show up as that blunt friend who speaks truth without a filter, or even the stranger who seems to understand your heart better than you do. If you've been praying, waiting, or even giving up hope on a breakthrough, here's your sign. God is sending someone chosen your way, but be warned. They might not look how you imagined, and they probably won't fit neatly into your comfort zone. Buckle up, because when divine encounters knock, they don't knock softly. They kick the door wide open, and trust me, you won't want to miss it. Number 1, divine timing doesn't fit human schedules. God doesn't work on your schedule. He doesn't send people your way when everything is neat and organized or when you feel ready. More often than not, divine timing looks messy. It comes when you're tired, confused, or even questioning whether God is paying attention at all. You might be dealing with heartbreak, financial stress, or just stuck in a season where nothing makes sense. That's usually when someone chosen shows up, not as a reward for your perfect faith, but as a lifeline in your chaos. The irony is that we often miss these people because we're too focused on waiting for a perfect moment. But God operates outside the timelines we create. His timing is about purpose, not convenience. The right person may arrive during a storm, not after it's cleared. And sometimes their presence is what calms the storm or gives you the strength to endure it. This person might not come with flashing lights announcing their importance. They may show up subtly, in a way that only makes sense in hindsight, but the impact they bring is undeniable. They speak the words you didn't know you needed to hear. They push you to step out of your comfort zone. They show up in the cracks of your brokenness and remind you that you're not forgotten. God's timing doesn't always look pretty, but it's always perfect. You don't need to be ready for divine appointments. You just need to be willing to recognize them. The moment you stop expecting things to happen on your terms is the moment you start seeing the miraculous unfold. So don't dismiss the unexpected. That interruption in your life may just be the sign you've been waiting for. Number 2, their purpose might not be to stay. Not every person God sends into your life is meant to stay forever. That's a hard truth to accept, especially when someone makes a big impact on your heart or your journey. We often want to hold on to people who feel significant, thinking their presence is permanent. But sometimes their role is seasonal, and their departure is part of God's plan. The mistake we often make is assuming that every meaningful relationship must be lifelong. But God sends people with specific assignments for specific seasons. Some are there to help you through a tough time, teach you a lesson, or open a door you couldn't open yourself. Once their purpose is fulfilled, they may have to move on, not because you did something wrong, but because their chapter in your story is complete. When you try to hold on to someone who is only meant to stay temporarily, it can actually hold you back. You miss out on the next stage God has prepared because you're clinging to what feels safe and familiar. It's painful, yes, but trusting God means understanding that just as He sent that person at the right time, He will send the next one when it's needed. The beauty in this truth is that people who are truly chosen by God leave something behind, wisdom, strength, or growth, even when they go. Their impact doesn't fade with their absence. So instead of mourning their departure, honor what they brought into your life, and be grateful for the season you shared. God's plan is always bigger than your attachments, and sometimes letting go is the key to stepping into something greater. Number 3, they may challenge, not comfort you. When God sends someone chosen your way, they don't always come to make you feel comfortable. In fact, they might shake up your entire world. We like to think that divine connections are soft and sweet, filled with instant understanding and peace. But sometimes the person God sends will challenge you in ways that feel uncomfortable, even frustrating. They'll call out your blind spots, question your excuses, and push you toward growth when you'd rather stay where it's safe. Their words might sting because they speak truth you've been avoiding. They won't tiptoe around your insecurities or enable your bad habits. And while it may be hard to accept in the moment, that friction is often the spark you need to change. Growth never happens in comfort, and God knows that better than anyone. That's why He often sends people who disrupt your routine, stretch your thinking, and force you to face parts of yourself you'd rather ignore. It might feel like they're being hard on you, but in reality, they're doing exactly what they were sent to do. Help you become the person God created you to be. The challenge is recognizing these people for who they are and not rejecting them because they don't fit your idea of support. Chosen people aren't always cheerleaders. Sometimes they're coaches who push you to levels you didn't think you could reach. Don't mistake their directness for a lack of love. They were sent to disrupt you for a reason. And if you're willing to embrace the challenge, you'll come out stronger, wiser, and closer to the person God intended you to be. Number 4, their arrival signals a shift in your assignment. When God sends someone chosen your way, it's rarely just about companionship or guidance. It's often a signal that your assignment is shifting. We tend to get comfortable with our routines, even when we feel a tug for more. But divine connections have a way of disrupting that comfort because they aren't just people. They're catalysts for change. Their arrival marks a turning point. They might bring opportunities that challenge you, or introduce new perspectives that shift how you see your purpose. Suddenly, what once felt meaningful might no longer satisfy you. That job you thought was the end goal, it now feels limiting. That dream you were pursuing, it needs refining. God doesn't send chosen people to maintain the status quo. They come to usher you into the next level of your assignment. The tricky part is that this shift often requires letting go of what's familiar. That's hard because familiarity feels safe, but holding on to what no longer fits will only keep you stagnant. Divine shifts are uncomfortable by design because growth and expansion demand discomfort. Pay attention to what changes when this person enters your life. Are new doors opening? Is your heart being stirred for something bigger? Is God calling you to a deeper level of obedience or leadership? Don't ignore the signs because you're too focused on preserving the old. God's plans are always progressive and His timing is precise. The person sent your way didn't show up randomly. They're a marker that God is preparing you for more. Trust the process, even if it feels unsettling. What's waiting on the other side of this shift will be far greater than anything you're tempted to hold on to now. Number 5. The chosen person may be in disguise. When God sends someone chosen your way, don't expect them to arrive with a spotlight and a perfect resume. In fact, they might show up in ways that make you question their importance altogether. They might be the person everyone dismisses, the quiet one in the room, or even someone whose personality rubs you the wrong way. But God isn't in the business of catering to our expectations. He works through the unexpected. It's easy to miss these people because we tend to judge based on appearances, status, or first impressions. If they don't look, sound, or act the way we think a chosen one should, we dismiss them. But divine connections don't always come in shiny packages. Some of the most pivotal people in your life will be the ones you never saw coming. The chosen person might challenge your pride without even trying. Their wisdom might be hidden behind simplicity. Their strength might come from scars you don't understand. The problem is, if you're too focused on finding someone who fits your expectations, you'll overlook the person God handpicked for you. Humility is the key to recognizing their value. It requires you to put aside your assumptions and stay open to the possibility that God knows better than you do. Sometimes the person who irritates you the most is the one who will teach you the greatest lesson. Sometimes the quiet presence that goes unnoticed is carrying the exact wisdom you need. Don't be too quick to write someone off just because they don't fit your mold. God rarely wraps His greatest gifts in perfection. He hides them in people who require a deeper look. And when you have the humility to see them for who they truly are, it will change everything. Number 6. God's chosen. Carry keys to unlock hidden parts of you. When God sends someone chosen into your life, they're not just there to be a companion or offer support. They're there to unlock parts of you that have been hidden, overlooked, or buried by fear and doubt. They carry keys to doors you didn't even know existed within you, and when they turn those keys, everything starts to shift. These people have a way of seeing past your surface. Where you see limitations, they see potential. Where you've convinced yourself that you're not good enough, they see the gifts God planted in you waiting to be cultivated. They call out things you've long dismissed as impossible or insignificant. They'll speak life into dreams you gave up on and push you to step into roles you never thought you were capable of handling. Sometimes their presence is gentle, but other times it's disruptive because they refuse to let you play small. They'll challenge your excuses, interrupt your self-doubt, and remind you of who God says you are. It can be uncomfortable because they'll confront the lies you've believed for years. But that's their purpose, to be a catalyst for the version of you that God intended all along. What makes these connections divine is that they aren't transactional. They don't unlock you for their benefit, but because it's part of their God-given assignment. Their joy comes from watching you rise into your purpose. And once they've fulfilled their role, you'll look back and realize that their presence wasn't just meaningful. It was transformational. So when someone sees something in you that you don't see in yourself, don't dismiss it. Pay attention. They might just be holding the key to the next chapter of your destiny. Number 7. Their words will resonate with your spirit, not just your mind. When God sends someone chosen into your life, their words don't just land in your ears. They hit your spirit. It's different from casual advice or the opinions people throw around. There's a weight to what they say, a sense of divine timing that goes beyond coincidence. It's like they're speaking a language your soul already understands, even if your mind hasn't fully caught up yet. What makes their words so powerful is that they often align with what God has already been whispering to you. Maybe you've been doubting yourself, questioning whether you're on the right path, or trying to ignore a nudge from God that feels too risky. Then this person shows up seemingly out of nowhere and speaks directly to those doubts. Without even knowing your inner struggles, they bring clarity and confirmation that you didn't realize you were craving. It's not always profound or dramatic. Sometimes it's a simple statement that hits differently because it echoes something you've already felt deep down. And that's how you know it's from God, because it connects with what He's already placed in your heart. These moments can feel eerie in the best way, like God is reminding you that He sees you, hears you, and knows exactly what you need. The person speaking may have no idea how significant their words are, but you'll feel it in your spirit. And that resonance isn't just comforting, it's empowering. It gives you the courage to move forward, make that decision, or finally embrace what God has been calling you to do. So when someone's words strike a chord that goes beyond logic and understanding, don't brush it off. That's divine alignment, and it's one of the clearest signs that God is moving in your life. Number 8, they will test your ability to love without conditions. When God sends someone chosen your way, it's not always for your benefit. Sometimes they arrive needing something from you: patience, support, forgiveness, or understanding. They may be going through their own battles, and their role in your life isn't to uplift you, but to test your ability to love without conditions. It's easy to love people when they're agreeable, when they affirm you, and when the relationship is mutually rewarding. But God-sent people don't always fit that mold. They might be broken, difficult, or even unaware of the impact they're having on you. Their presence may challenge your ego and disrupt your expectations of what relationships should be. These tests aren't designed to punish you, but to refine your heart. God is always working on your capacity to love as He loves, without strings, without a need for applause or validation. True love isn't transactional. It gives without keeping score. And sometimes God uses the people He sends to reveal whether you've truly learned that lesson. Maybe they require forgiveness you're not ready to give. Maybe they need grace in their flaws, or simply your quiet presence when words can't fix their pain. These moments are uncomfortable because they force you to confront parts of yourself that want to control, judge, or retreat. But this is where transformation happens. Loving without conditions isn't weakness, it's strength rooted in God's character. And when you rise to that challenge, something beautiful happens. You become a vessel for God's love, offering healing and restoration not just to the person He sent, but also to yourself. It's not about being perfect, it's about being willing. And that willingness often leads to the kind of love that changes lives. Number 9. Their departure is just as important as their arrival. When God sends someone into your life, it's easy to focus on their arrival. You see them as a gift, a sign that something good is happening. But what's just as important, though often harder to accept, is their departure. These people don't come to stay forever. They come to prepare you for what's next. And when their time with you is over, letting them go is part of honoring God's plan. The truth is, not all divine connections are meant to be permanent. Some are seasonal, designed to serve a specific purpose. They help you grow, teach you something important, or open doors to new opportunities. But once that purpose is fulfilled, their role in your life ends and they must move on. This isn't a sign of failure or abandonment, it's part of the divine rhythm that God orchestrates in your life. Their departure may feel like a loss, and it's natural to want to hold on to what has been meaningful. But trying to keep someone who is meant to leave will only block the new connections and blessings that God has for you. Think of it like clearing space in your heart or your life for something greater that is waiting to arrive. God doesn't take away without replacing. Letting go gracefully doesn't mean you stop caring or forget the impact they had on you. It means you trust God's timing and plan, even when it's hard. It means accepting that what's ahead might be different, but just as valuable. So, honor their departure by holding on to the lessons, the growth, and the love they brought into your life. And trust that when one season ends, another, even greater one is about to begin. Number 10. They may speak hard truths that break your chains. When God sends someone chosen into your life, they don't come to flatter you or tell you what you want to hear. Instead, they bring truths that hit deep. Truths that, while uncomfortable, are the very things you need to hear. These people speak with a boldness that might sting in the moment, but their words are often the key to breaking the chains of insecurity, fear, and the lies you've believed for far too long. The problem with living in a world of affirmation and comfort is that it often keeps us stuck in cycles of self-deception. We tell ourselves we're fine when we're not. We pretend that the fears we carry don't hold us back, or that the insecurities we hide won't sabotage our progress. The truth, however, is that these chains are often invisible, but just as real. And while it's easy to surround ourselves with people who agree with our excuses or validate our limitations, true growth happens when someone comes along and refuses to sugarcoat things. God's chosen people will speak with the kind of honesty that disrupts your comfort zone. They will call out the things you've tried to ignore, the fear that's paralyzed you from stepping into your calling, the insecurity that's kept you small, the lies you've accepted as truth. Their words don't come to tear you down, but to free you. Yes, it may hurt in the moment, but that pain is often the release you've needed to finally break free from the mental and emotional chains that have kept you from your purpose. It's not easy to hear hard truths, especially when they challenge the very identity you've built around your fears. But these truths are the gateway to healing and growth. Embrace them, even when they sting, because they're the pathway to breaking the chains that have held you back for far too long. Number 11. They won't compete with your relationship with God. When God sends someone chosen into your life, their presence won't pull you away from your relationship with Him. It will deepen it. The right person understands their role. They're not there to replace God, to be your idol, or to take priority over your spiritual walk. Instead, they act as a vessel, guiding you closer to your purpose, to your truth, and to the heart of God. It's easy to get caught up in relationships that feel consuming, where the lines between your identity and the relationship blur. But someone chosen by God will never require you to sacrifice your connection with Him. They'll encourage your spiritual growth, not hinder it. Their words, actions, and support will always be aligned with helping you draw closer to your Creator. They won't try to become the center of your universe, because they understand they're just a part of your journey, not the destination. In a world that often idolizes relationships and puts pressure on you to find completion in another person, a God-sent individual will remind you that your wholeness comes from God alone. They will never demand your undivided attention at the expense of your faith. Instead, they'll celebrate your relationship with God, encourage your spiritual practices, and cheer you on as you grow closer to Him. If anything, their presence will make your connection to God stronger, because they recognize that a relationship grounded in faith is the only foundation that can withstand the tests of life. So, if someone truly chosen by God comes into your life, they'll remind you that while you may walk together for a time, it's God who leads the way. They won't compete for your attention, they'll simply support your journey toward Him. Number 12. They may not look spiritual, but carry a divine assignment. When God sends someone chosen your way, they won't always come dressed in the spiritual attire you expect. They may not look the part of a godly person. They might not wear a cross, attend church every Sunday, or speak in spiritual cliches. In fact, they might be completely unconventional or even appear non-religious. But wisdom teaches us that God doesn't operate according to our limited definitions of what a spiritual person should look like. He works through all kinds of vessels, and often the most powerful divine appointments come in unexpected forms. This person might not have the outward signs of spirituality that we've come to associate with religious figures. They might not even fit the mold of someone we would naturally think of as sent by God. But that's the very point. God's ways are often mysterious and go beyond what we can see. He knows that His work doesn't depend on outward appearances, but on the condition of the heart and the purpose behind every encounter. The key here is wisdom, the ability to recognize divine assignments beyond the superficial. God doesn't always choose the person who seems the most polished or righteous. Sometimes He chooses someone who doesn't fit your expectations to challenge your assumptions and stretch your understanding of His work in the world. Their impact may not come through perfect piety or religious behavior, but through a word of wisdom, an act of kindness, or a bold move that shifts your perspective. So don't let appearances fool you. The person God sends may not look like the spiritual leader you imagined, but that's precisely why you need to pay attention. They may be the very vessel carrying a message or a change that God wants to bring into your life. The divine appointment is in the action, not the appearance. Number 13, their presence may force you to confront what you've avoided. When God sends someone chosen into your life, their presence often comes with a challenge, not just for your heart, but for your very soul. They have a way of stirring up things you've long buried, issues you've ignored, wounds you've avoided, and dreams you've suppressed all begin to surface when they arrive. They don't come to make life easier. They come to force you to confront what you've been running from. It's easy to go through life pretending that everything is fine, pushing aside the painful parts, and avoiding the truth about your past, your fears, or your unrealized potential. But when God sends the right person, they have a way of gently, or not so gently, pulling the lid off the box you've sealed shut. They may not even know they're doing it, but their very presence shines a light on the areas you've been too afraid to face. It's uncomfortable. It might even feel like they're intruding into parts of your life that should remain hidden. But this disruption is necessary for your healing and growth. They are sent to help you see the truth, no matter how painful it is, because only when you confront these buried parts of yourself can you move forward. The issues, the pain, and the dreams you've ignored can no longer be swept under the rug. This person's role is not to fix you, but to push you to face what God has been patiently waiting for you to deal with. Rather than running from their presence, lean into it. God is using them to reveal areas that need healing, growth, or a new direction. Their presence might feel like an awakening, but it's an awakening that will lead you to greater freedom, purpose, and peace. Once you stop avoiding the truth and start confronting it head-on. In the grand tapestry of life, divine connections are never random. When God sends someone chosen into your life, it's not just an encounter, it's a divine interruption, a purposeful shift that aligns you with a greater plan. These people are more than just companions or casual acquaintances. They are instruments of change, carriers of truth, and guides sent to push you into your next season of growth. Their presence isn't always easy to embrace, but it is always transformative. They may challenge you, confront you, or disrupt your comfortable routines. But each moment they bring is a part of God's design to unlock a new level of purpose within you. These chosen individuals don't flatter you, they don't make empty promises, and they certainly don't stay to make things convenient. They come to help you confront what you've avoided, push you toward what you've been resisting, and lead you into a deeper, more authentic relationship with God. So if you encounter someone who feels different, who shakes your foundations or challenges your perspective, don't dismiss them. Look closer, listen intently, and recognize the divine purpose woven into every word they speak and every action they take. Their arrival might be unexpected, their presence may not always be comfortable, but their departure will only mark the beginning of a new chapter in your life. God's chosen ones aren't here to stay forever, but the impact they leave will shape you in ways you can't fully understand until you look back. Embrace these divine connections, even when they push you to face your deepest fears or dreams. In the end, they're the ones who help you see what you truly are, and what you were always meant to become. Trust God's plan, honor His timing, and know that when the right person steps into your life, it's not just a meeting, it's a catalyst for something extraordinary. If this message resonated with you, don't let it end here. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more powerful insights like this one. If this spoke to your heart, give it a thumbs up and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear how God has moved in your life or what resonated with you the most. Share this with someone who might need a reminder that divine connections are always at work around us. Remember, When you share, you're not just spreading words, you're spreading purpose. So hit that share button, and let's keep this truth flowing far and wide. Thank you for being part of this journey. God bless you.